They say fake it till you make it. I faked love and made it into a billionaire's world. Private jets, diamonds, dinners with presidents. But I didn't expect the one thing that would destroy everything wasn't him. It was her, his real love. And I never saw her coming. If you've ever had to play a role just to survive or win, then you'll feel this story. Stick with me to the end. You'll never see love, loyalty, or power the same way again. Before the champagne toasts and silk sheets, before the penthouses and diamonds, I was just a girl who couldn't catch a break. 25, tired, and stuck in a loop that felt like it would never end. I had dropped out of college after my second year. Not because I wanted to, but because life demanded rent, not research papers. My mum got sick, bills piled up, and suddenly, dreams felt like luxuries I couldn't afford. Most days, I woke up to the buzzing alarm of my second job calling. Mornings were spent bussing tables at a cafe that smelled like burnt espresso and broken promises. Evenings, I worked retail, folding clothes I couldn't afford, watching girls with easier lives try them on like costumes. I'd smile, tell them they looked stunning, while my own shoes had holes in the soles I'd patched with duct tape. My life was a cycle of survival, scraping by, wishing for just one day where I didn't have to choose between gas and groceries. I was ashamed, honestly. Not because I wasn't trying, but because it never felt like enough. I saw people on social media living soft lives, sipping matcha and flying first class, and I'd wonder what I did wrong, what I was missing. I craved a way out, not just from the struggle, but from the invisible cage of not feeling like I was someone. I wanted to be seen, to matter, to live, not just exist. So when the door opened, a small glittering crack in a wall I'd been staring at for years, I stepped through it, without thinking, without planning. I stepped into a life that looked like everything I ever wanted. I didn't know then that my biggest opportunity would be my biggest lie. It started with a borrowed dress and a borrowed name. My best friend worked part-time for an event staffing agency, and one night, they were short to body for a high-profile charity gala. Black tie, millionaires, the whole thing. She begged me to fill in. "You'll just be in the background," she said. I didn't ask too many questions. I just needed the cash. I didn't know I'd end the night pretending to be someone I wasn't. He noticed me almost immediately. Not in a creepy way. He just had that kind of presence that makes the air shift when he walks into a room. Tall, tailored suit, the kind of watch that probably cost more than my rent for a year. I caught his eye while refilling champagne flutes. He asked if I was enjoying the evening. I panicked. I wasn't supposed to talk to guests. But something in me, something bold, something tired of being invisible, decided to play along. I smiled and told him I was a tech consultant. I made it sound just vague enough to be impressive. He laughed, said I had a sharp wit, asked for my number. That was the first time I lied. But it wouldn't be the last. We texted for a week before our first date. I Googled tech terms, read blog posts, and rehearsed answers like I was preparing for a role in a movie. Our date was surreal. Sushi flown in from Tokyo, a driver who opened my doors, champagne that didn't taste like anything I could afford. And somehow I passed the test. He believed me, he liked me, and just like that, I had one foot in a world I never belonged to. The craziest part, I started to believe I could keep the lie going. At first, it felt like I was just playing a part, like I was in a really expensive, really convincing dream. But dreams don't come with this kind of pressure. Every text from him, every dinner reservation, every conversation was a test I had to pass. I'd spend hours online, researching topics I thought he might bring up. I memorized buzzwords, watched interviews with startup CEOs, just to sound like I belonged. I even faked a LinkedIn profile. Every detail of me had to be crafted, rehearsed, believable. And he believed all of it. He took me to Dubai for a long weekend. I watched the sun rise from a yacht, pretending like it wasn't my first time on a boat. He introduced me to his friends, other wealthy men and their wives, women who wore quiet luxury and had expensive faces. I learned how to nod, smile, and sip slowly, even when I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. They liked me, said I had a refreshing perspective. That was rich. I didn't even have health insurance. But behind the dresses, the champagne, the travel, I was constantly on edge. One wrong word, one detail that didn't add up, and it could all come crashing down. There were nights I couldn't sleep, too anxious I'd slip up. I started avoiding certain topics. I laughed when I didn't get the joke, pretended I had meetings when really, I just needed time to study my own fake life. I told myself I was in control, that I'd stop once I had enough, whatever enough even meant. But somewhere along the line, I wasn't acting anymore. The clothes felt like mine, the attention, the lifestyle. I started to believe I deserved it, that I was finally becoming someone. It was a garden party in early spring, one of those effortlessly extravagant gatherings rich people throw just because the sun came out. I was wearing a soft lavender dress he'd picked out for me, feeling confident for once, like I actually belonged in this world. That feeling didn't last long, because that's when she walked in. She didn't need to announce herself. The air just kind of changed. People turned, smiled, whispered, and he lit up in a way I had never seen before, like someone had flipped a switch in him. He dropped my hand so casually it felt like an afterthought, walked over to her, hugged her like he hadn't seen sunlight in years. I stood there, trying not to look affected, trying not to feel affected, but I already knew. She wasn't just anyone. She was someone, the kind of someone who didn't have to pretend, who fit in this world because she was this world. Ivy League, art gallery owner, traveled, polished, old money with a new face. She had that quiet kind of power, the kind you don't earn, you inherit. They talked like no time had passed. I caught bits of it, private jokes, shared memories, soft tones. I smiled politely, even when I felt like shrinking into the ground. Later that night, when I asked about her, he just said, "We go way back." Like that explained everything. And from that point on, something shifted. He started cancelling plans more often, responding later, saying he was swamped. But I wasn't stupid. I could feel it. I was no longer the center of his world. I was just orbiting someone else's gravity. And the worst part, I couldn't even blame him. She wasn't just competition. She was the truth in a world I had built entirely on lies. I didn't have to be told we were competing. It was in the way she looked at me, like she was sizing me up, quietly dissecting everything I wasn't. I knew she saw through me. She didn't need to say it out loud. She carried herself like someone who always gets picked. And me? I was the girl who snuck in through the back door and hoped no one noticed. At every event, she was suddenly there, always just close enough to matter. Conversations at dinner where she'd be randomly mentioned. Weekend plans that mysteriously overlapped. She'd touch his arm casually when they laughed, her fingers lingering just long enough. And every time I was around her, she made it feel like I was the one intruding. I started second-guessing everything. How I dressed, how I spoke, what I said. I was already pretending to be someone I wasn't, but now I felt like I had to compete with someone I could never become. He said I was overthinking it, that they were just old friends, that she was like family. But men like him, they say things like that to keep their options open. I knew better. I just didn't know what to do with that knowing. I couldn't confront him, not without risking the delicate house of cards I had built. So instead, I smiled harder, laughed more, bought time. Inside, I was crumbling. There's a special kind of pain that comes from watching someone slowly turn their light away from you. You try everything to keep it burning, joke more, dress better, love louder, but you can feel it dimming. I hated how small I felt around her. But more than anything, I hated that deep down, I was terrified she was everything he wanted, and everything I could never be. I didn't mean to fall, that was never part of the plan. I was supposed to stay 2 steps ahead, smart, composed, untouchable. But love doesn't care about plans. It creeps in when you least expect it, usually when your guard is down. For me, it happened on a night I wasn't even supposed to be at his place. I had told him I was busy, trying to create a little space. I didn't want to seem needy, or worse, desperate, but he called anyway, said he just wanted to see me. His voice was softer than usual, tired somehow. When I got there, he wasn't in a suit. No charm, no audience, just sweatpants and a hoodie, hair messy, eyes a little red. He'd had a long day, something about a business deal falling through and some drama with his family. But instead of brushing it off like he always did, he opened up, really opened up. He told me about the pressure he was under, the people who only stayed close because of his bank account, how lonely it felt at the top. And then he said something that cracked me. "You're the only one who doesn't make me feel like a transaction." That night, we didn't drink champagne or talk about art or business. We sat on the floor, ate takeout, and talked like 2 people who were finally seeing each other. Not the versions we performed, but the people underneath it all. I remember looking at him and realizing this wasn't just a game anymore. Somewhere between all the pretending, I had started telling him real things, laughing real laughs, feeling real things. I wasn't faking it, not anymore. And that was the scariest part, because now I had something to lose. It unraveled faster than I could process. One minute I was floating, believing maybe, just maybe, this whole lie could turn into something real. The next, everything I built was collapsing around me like a house with no foundation. It happened at another one of those high society dinners, full of laughter that doesn't reach the eyes and smiles that hide secrets. I had almost convinced myself I belonged there. Almost. She was there, of course, impeccable as always, but this time her smile held something different, almost smug, like she knew a secret I didn't, and she did. Near the end of the night, she pulled me aside, alone, calm, too calm. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "You should know I did a little digging. Your resume is adorable, but fake." My mouth went dry. My heart tried to escape my chest. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her words were a scalpel, slicing through the identity I'd worked so hard to build. She didn't threaten me. She didn't have to. She just walked away, confident that her message would reach him, and it did. By morning, the calls had stopped. The silence said everything. A friend of his, not him, told me he was taking space. That he felt blindsided, lied to, that he couldn't trust me. I tried to explain, to say it wasn't all fake, that what I felt was real. But my words were dust by then, too late, too small. Within days, I was blocked. From his phone, his life, everything. No closure, no goodbye, just an erasure. And the irony? I thought I'd lose him because I wasn't enough. But in the end, I lost him because I made him believe I was more than I ever really was. After everything disappeared, him, the lifestyle, the illusion, I was left with silence. Deafening, echoing silence. My phone, once full of dinner invites and travel confirmations, stayed dark. I stopped opening my social media. I couldn't bear to see the comments, the rumors, the thinly veiled jabs from people who had always suspected I didn't belong. Screenshots of my fake profile were shared. Strangers called me a gold digger, a scammer, a liar. I didn't even have the energy to fight it. I just shut down. I went back to the little apartment I had once been so desperate to escape. Rent was due. My savings were gone, spent on dresses, flights, nights pretending. I went back to my old job at the cafe, this time as a cashier instead of behind the scenes. People I used to serve side by side with looked at me like a ghost. Whispers followed me everywhere. I felt like a walking punchline. But it wasn't just the shame that crushed me, it was the heartbreak. Because somewhere in all the pretending, I had let myself hope. I had let myself love him. And even worse, I believed, just for a moment, that he might have loved me too. That maybe if I had told the truth sooner, things could have been different. I hated myself for lying, but I hated myself more for falling in love while doing it. Nights were the hardest. That's when the voices came. The what ifs, the you're nothing, the cruel rewinds of moments I wanted to erase. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I barely moved. People talk about rock bottom like it's a single moment, but for me, it was a slow, suffocating fall. And the worst part, I had no one to blame but myself. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand epiphany, no movie scene turnaround, just a slow, quiet kind of healing. At first, it was small things. Getting out of bed without crying, making coffee without my hands shaking, walking outside and letting the sun touch my face without feeling like I didn't deserve the light. I started journaling, not for Instagram captions, but for me, for the girl underneath all the pretending who had been silenced for too long. Therapy helped, a lot. It forced me to sit with the parts of myself I had tried to dress up and disguise. I started asking myself harder questions. Why did I think I needed to lie to be loved? Why did I believe that who I was, without the heels, the labels, the stories, wasn't enough? The answers weren't pretty, but they were mine, and in owning them, I began to reclaim the pieces of myself I had buried. I got a real job, nothing glamorous, but honest. I worked front desk at a small non-profit. The pay wasn't amazing, but I could breathe. I could sleep. I could be real. And slowly, I started to feel like a person again. Not a performance. I still missed him. Some nights, I still do. Not the lifestyle or the gifts, but him. The version of us that existed in that quiet moment on his living room floor. I think that part was real, even if the rest wasn't. But now I know this. I don't need to become someone else to be loved. I don't have to sell a fantasy to be worthy. The version of me that struggles, that fails, that tries anyway, that girl deserves the whole world. And for the first time, I'm giving her the chance to build it. Looking back now, I don't hate the girl who lied. I understand her. I understand why she did what she did. She was scared, invisible, and tired of being left behind. She saw a door crack open into a world she thought only existed in movies, and she ran through it before it could shut. She thought love would save her. She thought pretending would finally make her seen. And for a while it did. But here's the truth. No one tells you. If you build something on lies, even the most beautiful parts will collapse eventually. The clothes, the dinners, the yacht trips. None of it meant anything when I lost myself. I got so good at being who I thought he wanted, I forgot who I was before him. That's the real heartbreak, not losing the man, but losing myself in the process. The lesson wasn't about love or money or exposure. It was about me, about how far I was willing to go to feel like I mattered, and how little I trusted that the real me, flawed, broke, honest, could ever be enough. Now I live slower, quieter, but with more truth. I'm learning that authenticity isn't always glamorous, but it's solid. It holds. It lasts. I don't walk into rooms hoping to be chosen anymore. I choose myself, every single day. That's a different kind of wealth, one I never knew I was allowed to claim. If you're listening to this, and you've ever felt like you had to become someone else just to be loved, please hear me. You don't. You are not a project. You are not a disguise. You are not someone else's fantasy. You are enough, exactly as you are. And that is a truth no one can take from you. If you've ever worn a mask to be loved, you're not alone. Share this story if it made you feel something. And remember, being seen for who you really are is the only kind of love that lasts.